You are tuning in to Access Live, a show about raising awareness, what's going on in the community, and to address the issues that impact youth and their families that have serious emotional and behavioral challenges. We are located at the Brookins Building at 1776 East Washington in Urbana, Illinois, and at the downtown location at 202 West Park Street.
Well, good afternoon, WBCP listening audience and our Access Live supporters. This is Imani Bazzell, your host for Access Live, a community education and engagement initiative of the Access Initiative. And aren't we lucky this October 1st of 2014 to have such a beautiful day outside. So I hope everyone hasn't given up on their gardening quite yet. I think we got another few weeks to hold on before maybe we have to sit out some silks instead of the real thing. We're so happy to have in the studio this afternoon. I pull on him all the time and caught him off guard recently. And he made the mistake of saying yes. But yes, we do have the director of the Access Initiative in the studio this afternoon, Mr. Tracy Parsons. Hey, TP.
Hey, thanks. I'm glad it worked out so that I could come on and talk and share with you. Let me say congratulations on award-winning show you've been doing here for us, and NAACP is acknowledging Access Live on their dinner coming up later in the month, and let me say thank you and how pleased we are from an Access project that you've been holding us down for us every week and getting information out about our community and mental health and all of the other things that you bring to the table each week.
Well, thank you. I have to say I was completely caught off guard because I never think of the work I do in a way that it might be nominated for anything. So it was a pleasant surprise to be notified. Not just for me, but what I'm excited about, I think the nomination was about our willingness to be bold and courageous, to talk about what our community's needs and desires are, and that regular, grassroots, everyday community people are tuned in, and maybe we're making a difference in getting the word out about access. You think maybe?
Well, I think the role of black media today is even more important than ever before. And so when you talk about WBCP and the venue that we have here, it's just critical. And the information, and so, I've said on this show before, anytime when I talk, I'm a big talk show person. So, I start off my morning with Joe Madison, and then I'll check and see what they're talking about on WDWS, and if that's crazy.
Somebody's got to.
Yeah, and if that's crazy, I flick that off, and then I'll go through and I do WIL, and I do WVON out of Chicago, and I do the other national syndicated shows. And then I pick up Sharpton's show every day at noon out of Chicago, WVON. And so just the issues and the things that are impacting us in our community, the black voice and the black media has a completely different role. And we cover the stories differently, we talk about the issues differently, and the impact on us is different. And so, it's just a powerful piece. And so again, thank you. We've got to figure out how we keep this going.
Oh, yeah.
So as we go through Access last year and money's winding down, this voice, this venue, the radio station is a critical part of our sustainability, and we've got to figure out how we make that happen.
I'm really glad that you say that, Tracy, because no truer words are spoken, especially because there's only a few black-owned radio stations left in the whole country.
Right.
When I'm traveling nationally and meeting with various groups of African Americans who are organizing for different reasons, they're always surprised when I say, hey, we've got a black-owned radio station, or when I say to them they should be using it in their towns. They're like, we don't have one left, right, because they've all been swallowed up by big corporations. And so if we're to ever have true self-determination and liberation as African Americans, we have to own our own institutions, and this is a critical one.
Well, it's just so true. And like I said, as we work on these real tough moral, spiritual, intellectual, philosophical, and social issues in our community and about our kids and families. You know, again, our ability to talk about these issues from our place, like I said, is just we just got to have it. We got to have more of it.
Like Spike Lee said,
right.
Gotta have it.
Right, and so we've got to figure out how to tie in the voice with the web presence.
Yes.
And all of that. The days.
Every platform we can get,
That's
we
right.
should be on it.
That's
right.
right. That's right.
That's wonderful. Now, you talk about the importance of our being able to express our voice, or sort of our POV, our point of view. And I think that comes particularly clear with this show, because we know it's funded by a substance abuse and mental health initiative, but we get that mental health has all these different components. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think people are used to, when you say mental health, you're thinking about something very narrow. But we approach it as our intellectual health, emotional health, physical health, spiritual health, the health of our families and communities. We can't have behavioral health when we're living in poverty and destruction, and have no voice. Talk a little about that from the access perspective.
Well, it remains my most consistent, difficult part of doing this work. And so when we think about crime and punishment, when we think about education, when we think about, the mental, spiritual, physical well-being and health of our community, the larger community, those providing services, those in charge in education, those in the justice system, all those things don't view us and see us from that place. They don't see us from that human place. And so, it's an interesting dynamic. And so, a kid who's having some challenges or issues at home and brings that to school, that's not even taken into account often. I shouldn't say always, but often. And so what we have to do is humanize us as people with the same types of issues and things.
We bleed red
That's
blood
right.
too.
And so when you think about, again, our kids and the challenges and issues that they face on a daily basis, positive and negative, it's the same for us. And so those benefits of the doubt, those things that let me ask, in our trauma work, we don't say what's wrong with you. We say what has happened to you.
Ooh, that's so deep, isn't it?
And so being able to ask those questions all around what we do is still so important. So I'm still trying to convince folks
after all this time,
after 5 going on 6 years, that that's the question to ask. That's the question to try to probe is, what's happened? What's going on? How are you? How are you today?
Because you're trying to get at and uproot trauma. And I tell you just a few interesting things. Of course, we've done a lot to talk about community police relations, because it runs so deep in our bones. And we need to get to a place where we can feel like we're on the same side. And I think we've made some real progress, certainly in our community, maybe less so in others, and we still have a ways to go here. But in particular, we've talked a lot about Ferguson as it was on the national news. And it was on again yesterday. I tape numerous news broadcasts every day, probably 6 or 7, right, of national pieces. Because, of course, Roland Martin on News One Now is going to talk about it differently from Chris Hayes on MSNBC, but I want to hear both.
Right.
I want to hear Democracy Now! I want to hear all of it.
It's interesting that you say that. Not to cut you off, but I've started delaying my morning to be able to catch Roland and TV One in the morning, to be able to just capture the day's topics, from his and TV One's place and perspective, and so again we get back to that place and role of black media. So I was smiling as you said that, and I had to bring that in because I just think it's such a critical point.
It's so important because they're going to talk about it completely differently. And here's the thing. The reason people like myself, people like you, who are really trying to be as much as possible advocates and organizers in the interests of our community, I need to also know what our community is ingesting. Mm-hmm. And so there are some things that I'll watch or listen to that I don't really care for myself, but if I know a lot of African Americans are consuming this thing, I need to know, because if I'm hearing something or in a conversation, I got to know what they're talking about. And I do know a lot of African Americans here in town get their news from News One now.
That's interesting.
Oh yes, I hear it all the time, and I'm happy that folks are tuning into the news. But I've heard from many just regular folks right in this neighborhood. You know, because a lot of people, of course, they have cable, and they are turning on News One now. And you know, I'm not always in sync with Brother Roland.
Oh no, that's not the point.
But we still got to know what's being said. So we got to know what to support and what to challenge, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah. So
today he had Anthony Anderson on, and we got this new show. So you
the
talk
whole
about what
thing.
So what folks are watching, you know, and so Lawrence Fishburne is a strong activist brother that I've known and followed for years.
Yeah.
So when I saw the title of the show, I was taken aback a little bit, and so in the context of what they're trying to show and talk about and demonstrate through the show, it's interesting because I think the name and the title throws that off.
Well, you know what? I feel a lot better if the show was on TV One than it being on mainstream television, because there's so many misconceptions about who we are. Sometimes I hate to... People are often looking for... I know they're trying to break stereotypes by doing it.
Yeah, but they're reinforcing the stereotypes with the minstrel show and I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
So I haven't been able to bring I saw that's what they were going to be talking about this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell the truth, y'all. I deleted it.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't feel my heart could go there. I know I'm going to have to check it out. And I see the sister who's playing Anthony Anderson's wife is, I don't know if people know this, that's Diana Ross's daughter.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Ross, her last name is Ross.
Yeah.
That's Diana Ross's daughter.
Tracy Ross, right?
Tracy Ross is her daughter, that's
okay.
right. Was that Barry Gordy's daughter? No, I don't think so, but it could be.
Okay.
We know they got a child who looked just like him, we'll put it that way. So anyway, my point was, there's still a lot of organizing going on in Ferguson, for instance. And so, one thing that I have liked, at least about MSNBC, and I think some other news outlets, print news outlets as well, is that gave some black reporters some national face time, actually. Because many of them sent, like for instance, MSNBC has a whole MSNBC online. And so they've got a whole nother staff who's writing for them online and doing reports and stuff that never makes it to the television, but you would see it online. So this one brother we kept seeing, I think his name is Tremaine, he was on the ground every day for more than 2 weeks, and he was getting making national news every day. He was on it like a big dog. And then there's this other young brother named Ryan, I don't remember his whole name. He wrote for a well-known media outlet as well, and so he was getting a lot of pub. We also saw many black elected officials from the area were then given a national platform to talk about these things, which was nice. But anyway, I saw on several shows yesterday, I did 2 in a row, so from Monday and Tuesday. So the chief, if people don't know this, the chief of police in Ferguson, finally, he taped it, he didn't do it live, taped an apology to the Brown Foundation.
Correct.
Did you check that out?
Yeah, it came out last week.
So,
right.
Bless his heart. So they were playing it all Monday, I think it was. So on the one hand, I think he was sincere. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But one of the things that happened, they keep talking about them being tone deaf. And so it took black reporters. There's a sister they go to in St. Louis all the time who's an attorney and a reporter as well to give commentary from the area. And he bungled it again. You know, even so finally somebody convinced him 6 weeks later, you really should say, I'm so sorry for your loss. And also, I'm really sorry your son was left out in the open for hours and hours. First he tried to defend it. Well, you know, we were just trying to do everything. But then he ended it with, but it really was too long. But then he said all this other stuff that just upset people more. Then they told him to come and join them, and he tried to join the march, and it didn't even last 2 minutes before it turned into a big ruckus. We need people who understand what was happening there. There was all this provocation going on that the white media doesn't necessarily catch. So, okay, we're going to take a call in just a moment. Some of the white police officers were wearing "I'm Darren Wilson" bands around their wrists.
Right.
You can't do that. You can't on the one hand say, I want to repair relations between the black community and the police, and then cover your name tag so nobody knows your name, keep treating people harshly, and wear a wristband that essentially says, I don't believe you, I'm on the other side. Right. So while you're making these overt gestures, I care and I want to be close, you're being provocative at the same time, and then people wonder why black folks are still mad. Oh, yeah. We're the ungrateful children. We don't know how to accept an apology. I don't think so. Okay. Hello, caller.
Well, good afternoon, Imani.
Hey, Pat Avery. How are you?
Hey, I'm trying to get my call in early.
Good. Jump on in.
Well, good. I heard you speak about the chief of police in Ferguson finally releasing the video. I saw that where he sent an apology to the family of my ground.
Yep.
I want you to know, and when I'm just waiting for you to answer the phone, I can't hear the radio.
Yep.
I want you to know that the family doesn't want an apology.
That's what they said.
Want justice.
That's right.
And so, whether that apology is authentic or not, it's a little too late. How can you take an apology if it takes someone that long to apologize, Imani? How serious can it be?
Well, that's how people are feeling.
Yeah, I know you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it's very, very difficult to do, and it took so long. I don't know if it was pressure, if we are waiting for something. I always think that these things don't happen just because people have an epiphany.
Yes.
I believe that there is something about follow this apology.
Well, I think that's why the people were up in arms. What he said in defense, he said, this has just been burning in my chest for weeks, and I just finally had to say it. And the crowd was like, well, what was stopping you? Why didn't you say it when it was burning in your chest? And he didn't have a real answer.
Well, let me maybe offer. Go ahead, Trish.
I just don't buy it, and I don't think the family does. The mother, I mean, this is still very painful for the family. I saw her do an interview with Steve Harvey, and I couldn't control my tears. She was just had the entire audience in tears. This is unbelievable, and I think it's really the tears start to flow, especially when she started to describe how she received the call and where she'd gotten a number of calls from her sister and someone else that said there was a shooting around by her mother's house. And she left work just to go check it out because she had a feeling. And when she got there, she said she just saw the yellow tape and she had a sinking feeling. But when we went up to the officers, she said, I and they told me no.
Oh, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that one. I just heard her say, the best apology you can give me is justice.
Absolutely. No. With Steve Harvey. This was the interview with Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
And then she said that the fact that they let her baby lay there in the street for 4.5 hours, they would not let her go up to it with him. And that for me, how can you then come back?
You can't.
Later, and then try to say somehow you're sorry, and somehow that they needed that much time to do an investigation. Where's the investigation? There wasn't even a report.
Exactly. So yeah, the credibility is that it's crumbled. Tracy, you want to say something?
Well, I know we got to go to break, but I just wanted to offer a little different perspective on it. And I'll use similar to when we had Kiwan's death here as an example. You know, so behind the scenes and after these incidents have happened and it's explosive, you know, there's always the meetings that are taking place behind the scenes, or folks are in there talking. So I know what has happened. He's been meeting with black groups and black leadership in Ferguson. And so what they have told him is the first thing you got to do is apologize for how y'all handled this. So I know that that's how that came out, and why he came out now and apologized before we move forward. You got to apologize for that. And so that's all part of the plan to start the healing, the reconciling, and all of those types of things.
We agree.
So I just wanted to put that on the table as how and why those things happen.
Still, the issue is 6 weeks later. Not that I believe that's why he finally did it, but 6 weeks he blew it.
Absolutely. And Monica, before you go,
yeah,
we're coming up on the 5th-year anniversary since they brought up Kiwan.
Yeah.
We are coming up on the 5th anniversary of the killing, the shooting death of Kiwan. And it's ironic because Jay Toon and I, Jamie, his best friend and I, just came from the house.
Did you?
Yes, he did. He's still very, you know, he went to Ferguson with me, and these things are, he says it's just very, the wound has not healed.
Yeah.
And so he has done a number of things to try to stand up. He said he was young then, and he had a lot to say, but he didn't know how to say it. But now he's being a voice. He says that Kiwan is actually speaking through him. So there is going to be a story, and I think a very powerful one, where this young man is talking about his experience since the shooting death of Kiwan. And it's just...
Well, Trish, I appreciate if you would share with him. I'd be interested in helping him figure out how to do that. If he doesn't have a venue and a way of doing that, I'd love to help support him, tell his story, because the traumatic impact that you're right, the traumatic impact he's gone through. This message and the information is so important.
He is managing to work through it, Tracy, but I still would like for him to tell you, because he told the story about how he worked through it. He said immediately after Kiwan got killed, first of all, he was in denial. He said he didn't even believe it until the funeral. And then he said he went out to the gravesite and spoke to him and told him he was going to try to get himself back together. But he said his grades started slipping. He wanted to drop out of school. Said that he stopped playing basketball because that's one of the last things he wanted to get together. Well, he really struggled with it. And every year, as he was talking about Kiwan just now, his eyes were watering up. So
he's still traumatized. That's what we've been talking about. So Trish, if you could, because I've seen you with him, I know that he trusts you. When he feels, and I would like you to help Tracy spend some time with him, and when he feels healed enough and emboldened enough, I'd like you all to support him in coming on the show and sharing with the community, because I think I think he can help with some healing himself. I think he's not just a victim, but he's also a teacher, right? He's a teacher.
He is, and he put out a video, he sent a new film, and it talks about his relationship with T1, and he ties it to going to Ferguson, and you all should listen to that. He actually did that whole piece for the News Gazette.
Yes.
He got it on CD. You guys need to hear it.
Okay, babe, we'll look for it. We getting gesticulations telling us to go to commercial, but
right,
your call has been helpful and powerful, honey. Have a safe trip out of town.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. And with that, you all please stay tuned. We've got a lot more coming up after the break. Bye-bye.
Access Live can be heard every Wednesday afternoon from 2 to 3 p.m. on WBCP 1580 AM in Champaign-Urbana. You can learn more about the Access Initiative by visiting their website at www.access-initiative2.org.
We're back. This is Imani Bazzell, your host for Access Live, a community education and engagement initiative of the Access Initiative. In the studio this afternoon, we have the director of the Access Initiative, Tracy Parsons. We've been talking about our big umbrella of mental health and healing for the African American community, and how we attempt to do that in so many ways, not in the most narrow of ways people think about mental health. Well, we've got a caller we're going to bring to you, so hello, caller.
Good afternoon. How are you all?
Good afternoon. How are you? We're good.
That's great. That's great. You know, I know that you guys are talking about the Project Access coming to an end, and I just wanted to ask Mr. Parsons if he really sees Access as being a program or part of a bigger process that has evolved in Champaign and Champaign-Urbana area for the last 5 years, or basically since he's returned back to the community. I mean, is the legacy going to be a program ending, or is it going to be a process that's going to be ongoing?
Well, how are you, ma'am? It's been a long time since I've actually talked to you.
Girl, he recognized your voice. Sorry.
Hey, hon, how are y'all?
I'm good, sweet. How's the South treating you?
The South is the South.
I knew she was going to say
so.
Well, thank you
But
so.
I can't believe it's almost coming to an end. Oh my God, this is like, what, 2 decades of work?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I think you know the reality is, you know, where we're going to completely be able to change these systems in 5 or 6 years. No, but I do believe we've helped crack through that concrete shell. Now, have we broke all the way through it? No, because as we started off the show talking about, I'm still trying to convince folks, you know, that mental health issues are real for us, and, you know, all the implications because of that, and how our kids are viewed and treated and judged and dehumanized, and all of those types of things are still a real issue that I deal with daily. You know, I've got a meeting after this that, you know, I had to say an extra prayer this morning to be able to handle that meeting today. So
need some hands laid on him, girl.
And so you know, what I'm most optimistic about, V, is that we've got a 501c3 that we set up that's a family-run organization made up of family members who have navigated these systems. So the board members are success stories navigating the systems, and the staff are folks with lived experience. And I'm just really excited about what I think we might be able to do in our community and throughout the state through our Youth and Family Alliance. That's what we're calling it. And so there will be some other things. I think we've done some real good training work around trauma and trauma-informed care, and we've got a number of folks certified in motivational interviewing and mental health first aid and some of these types of technical types of things that we've been able to put in place. I think we've raised the awareness of mental health in our community.
Absolutely.
For everybody.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so there are some. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, the consent decree kept us in the forefront of
Yes.
so many things for our kids, and then Project Access coming along at the end of the consent decree allowed you all to maintain a front and center, we're not going to go away mentality, and that's just been a blessing to kids and families.
Well, it has. You know, the challenge part of it is doing it through the county and the mental health board. I'm probably more restricted with what I can say and do with the freedom I had at the Urban League, and so that's, you know, that's.
But accolades to the development of the family group, and if we can get parents and folks who are consumers of services to really understand they can drive this train.
Yes.
You know, folks don't have paid jobs if they don't have clients, and that's us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's our responsibility, and again, fans and getting that going. And Felicia, we have to stop being the victims and understand we own this ship.
Right.
Yeah.
Our boat, these are our kids, these are our tax dollars, and a parent organization can have a voice so many of us who are hired by the bureaucracy cannot have. How dare someone tell me, as a parent of a child in a wheelchair, how to parent a child in a wheelchair?
That's right.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's exciting, and we need to say to our listening audience, for those of you who may not recognize who's on the line, this is a longtime sister and mother of Champaign-Urbana. Before that, Chicago. Vanessa Gibson, who is now in New Orleans, Louisiana, trying to do best what she did here. She left an incredible legacy for us. In fact, she does have the experience of doing wraparound, of training many parents and young people, of trying her best to create, and did create, a family organization like what we're talking about now. She busted her butt with others to try to create this system of care that Access is now still trying to create. And so, Vanessa, you left an incredible legacy. We still have young people here who are now young adults who had that training and support from you. And it just feels like, you know, we got our arms down there to you. We have that connection. You've got that connection up here. Because, in fact, what we have to do is build or rebuild a national network, a national community.
Absolutely.
So we don't think we're doing this by ourselves.
And you know, really, I want to take this opportunity not just to you know, talk about Project Access, but also to, you know, Tracy, you need to understand the reach that the league had is partnership with, you know, our network with SisterNet and
right.
Project Etc. and Freedom School and all of that, is that Project Access is so much bigger than just a project.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
really is a continuation of great people in Champaign-Urbana doing great work. So I just want to shout out two things real quick, and I'm going to get off the air. Y'all remember our sister girlfriend Lillian, right? Lillian
Yes. Is she still in Seattle?
Sister, she's Seattle, Everett, Washington, running for state rep.
Oh, my goodness.
And guess what's on her agenda?
What?
Voice Access Mental Health Services for Youth.
Wonderful.
Brandon Corley, one of your first Freedom School interns that Tracy, you sent to Tennessee, is now starting up charter schools for boys in New York City as on a state commission with the governor. And so we've created a network of young people. Y'all still got Dante Lotz there. You know, remember he was our first Freedom School director.
Yeah.
And my baby girl Bree, school librarian at Urbana Middle School, where I started my work with Paula Mears and Henry Mears.
That's right.
So, Tracy, you need to stick your chest out, boo, because you have touched so many young people who are doing great work to further the cause of children and family. And with or without the league, I hope you end your legacy with a sense of pride and purpose. Because Imani's right. We may not all still be there, but folks are out doing the do, Tracy, and they claim. I started in Champaign.
That's right.
So thank you. And yeah, Imani and I are still shaking stuff up on.
That's right.
we got stuff going, but that's a whole nother show.
Wonderful.
I just wanted to shout out to you guys. I talked to Carl Dennis yesterday. He said y'all were doing work. So I'm proud to say I'm still part of y'all family.
That's right.
I got wraparound kids still calling me. So,
well,
grown now, but they still call.
Well, I appreciate that very much, V. And I think we were a strong team because we were able to share and support each other's work. And so I know that feeling of walking into someone and they're like, "Hey, Mr. Parsons," or "Hey, do you remember me?" And they remind me how I know them. So that does happen regularly. In fact, I was in last time I was in Washington D.C., I ran into Jeff Johnson in the airport, and so we had a really nice exchange. And he remembered coming to Champaign, and me, and you, and of course you, but so our reach is impactful. And so when I'm often in meetings with folks that have been around here a long time. Now that wraparound is kind of ingrained in a lot of this managed care work, you know, everyone says, well, Vanessa Gibson brought that to us, blah, 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 blah. So, I pat you on the back as well.
Absolutely, girl.
And to show how this isn't just about us, I don't know if Imani told you, I'm actually relocating to Phoenix for family work, but in contact with, guess who? Marty Barrett.
Oh, girl, stop. That's right. He moved out there.
Across the aisle.
That is funny.
Our Republican friend.
Oh, Lord.
And it supports this work. How many decades ago?
Marty, and let me remind people who we're talking about, Marty Barrett was the head of the regional Office of Education for years, where Vanessa had her grant money housed, and Marty, though not from a party that traditionally supports this kind of work, was always supportive of everything Vanessa tried to do and did accomplish. Yes.
I've never been to Phoenix.
Hint, hint.
That one city you've never been to. Wait, I'm not sure, but I think there's a multicultural name conference happening in November, and again, one of your children, Barbara Cornejo.
Yes.
The presenter.
Wonderful.
So let me just let you all go. But again, keep doing the do. You still got my babies living up in that city, so I may not be there physically, but my spirit is always there. And again, hats off to you. Give Karen a hug.
Yeah.
And I am so incredibly proud of y'all. I may be swinging through there in a couple of weeks. So
Please.
I'll call y'all and we'll be over at sushi night on Monday.
That's right. Okay, baby.
Much
we love you.
Much love.
All right, love
okay.
you.
All right.
Bye-bye. All right. What a delight.
Well, we went in, all kind of different directions today.
But see, this is the importance of Vanessa's call was we were going to spend the day really talking about these issues, how hard it is to try to address them, what we've accomplished so far, what still needs to happen. And so I think Vanessa's call was right on time because as our listening audience knows, I'm a big history person because history begs to be resolved. So if we don't understand where we've been, right, we can't set a clear track to where we want to go. And she's reminded us that where we are right now, we stand on shoulders. And in many ways, she's pointing out on our own shoulders because we've been doing this work for a few decades. And wherever we had victories, we always have to build on those. And there are things that we did accomplish at the Urban League and through earlier wraparound work, family organization work that may be lying dormant, that this may remind us to wake that up, to breathe new life into those things. What do you think?
No, I mean, I love it, and, when you're caught up in it and the day to day, you sometimes don't take the time to reflect or to think about, but something will trigger for you sometimes that makes you have that moment in time and in space when you go, oh, this did happen, or this was powerful.
That's
or
right.
This was, one of those things that, so when we were talking about Ferguson earlier, and I was thinking about our community's response compared to Ferguson's. And so while a lot of it might be subtle, but we got a new police chief who happens to be African American.
From here.
We got the majority, if not all, of the Cowboys out of the police department in Champaign. That's not a publicly known thing. I'm not saying that there aren't incidents and things don't happen, but the overt, aggressive, disrespectful folks are not in Champaign Police Department anymore. And so there's a number of other things that have happened. You know, we've got this coalition group that, you know, I've been working in as part of and getting ready to assume the leadership for that.
And remind folks who meets.
Well, the coalition, you know, really it sprung out of the Kiwan shooting, and so we now have Urbana at the table in a new and different way. So I've got school districts, city, government, park district, school districts, police, you know, community organizations, individuals. You know, we meet monthly, and we're talking about issues and things that impact our community, so that we're able to not only respond, but also we're able to address things on the front end. Now, is it finished product? No. You know, and are we still trying to encourage and persuade participation and support and engagement? You know, when folks feel like, you know, again, you know, we get back to that issue of our community, our kids and our families and how that's viewed, but we have them at the table.
Yes.
We have them in a position to be able to have access and hold them accountable. And that accountability piece is so important.
Huge. But you know what's important about the accountability piece? Our own accountability.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why what we're talking about is so important. In all the work that I do, I'm not comfortable doing it without the context of me having to report into others, to community members, to you, to whomever, to say, do I have this right? Am I on the right track? So many people saw in the email I sent out about the show today, I asked for feedback, 359-9227. Is the show too tame? Is it too militant? Do you feel informed? Are we talking about what you want and need? Are you learning? We have to be accountable to each other when we're public actors, as well as to maybe some stuff we don't do with our work hat on. But I want to say, in response to something else Vanessa suggested, but it wasn't stated directly, when you talked about us being a good team, there was an incredible host of people at the Urban League under Tracy's leadership, and when we finally had to close our doors, many of us, I don't know that everyone knows this, we're so committed to the work, which you don't stop doing the work because the doors close, but talk about experiencing our own trauma. I watched my colleagues, especially my female colleagues, and myself, our health, you, Tracy, your health, deteriorated. We were so traumatized trying to fight and make it work that at some point I literally had to take a leave of absence. I was so ill. I watched colleagues develop hypertension and diabetes. Some of them gained tremendous amounts of weight. I lost tremendous amounts of weight. I was so traumatized I couldn't eat. We're suffering from insomnia. So those of us who are out here trying to do the work of the community with the community, we can experience trauma also. And so we have to be a support network for each other. So as we're working to make sure that our community's needs are met, we have to be of good, sound mind and body to do that and have people whom we can count on to keep us straight in our word, but also in our disposition.
Oh, well, you know, you talk about the impact on all of us from a traumatic place and personal place. And so, you know, I was always told, but I know that I felt a sense of responsibility to everybody and to this community. And so I went through that year or two of, you know, probably actual depression.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
And all of those types of things and had to work through and build myself back up and get confidence back in myself to be a public person and take on some of those kind of things again. It was a very traumatic time for all of us.
Very traumatic.
And so, but when we were genuine in our interest, and so I think that's what resurfaces.
That's what resurfaces as you heal. But
right.
Trace, I just gotta say, are you gonna signal me to be quiet, Mr. Sam? Oh, good. Okay, so we all right for a minute. I want to get in before we take this call because I think it's for us. Tracy, you were the kind of leader at the Urban League. You didn't have to have your hands all over everything because you knew you had this really competent team of people. We knew what our job was, and I always felt that you saw your job as making sure we could do our job. And I know to a great extent that was about running interference for us. Y'all don't know it, and Tracy don't want me to say this, but he's still running interference for me. So we need to have people in all places. And so I say things that I don't take back, that I don't apologize for, but for some people are maybe a little too radical, a little too militant for their taste. But as long as I'm speaking truth, and as long as it's for the right thing, Tracy does his best to run interference to keep people from attacking me or to assuage their concerns or whatever. We need that too.
Well, the thing about it is, folks expect us to be one voice and one perspective.
We are.
And we aren't. And everyone's perspective has value and has a role in this fight for social justice. And so what I've always seen my role as, and I see that as much today as before, is to help provide access. I am one of the few African-American black folks in this community that's uniquely positioned and has access to everyone.
That means white people like him.
Well, I don't know. They might question that, but
you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
They'll say something to you before they'll say something to me.
Absolutely. We got a call?
Okay. Is that for us? Okay, keep talking.
Okay.
You didn't say.
So, I think that's part of what Access is about, and that's what I've tried to do with Access, is make sure we've created the platform and the environment
for people to have access.
For people to have
Beautiful.
Access.
Hello, caller.
Hi, Imani.
Hi.
I forgot to say congratulations on the show getting nominated for the NAACP Media Award. I really want to say congratulations for that. This show has been such a wonderful outlet in getting the news and information. When you were talking about getting what we want to hear, I think this is a powerful program, and I just can't imagine not having it on the air for Wednesday. But I did want to congratulate you and to just tell Tracy that he has always been such a wonderful advocate for the community, and that he has touched the lives of a lot of folks. So I'm glad whatever he was going through, he was able to go through it, because so many of us never lost faith in him, and that we are truly glad that he came out of his depression, and we are now, and he is now our. Well, that's all I want to say.
Wonderful. And we are grateful for you to continue to bring bold leadership to the NAACP when some are afraid, when some heads of branches are afraid to speak truth. You're not, and you do it. Tracy, you want to say anything to her?
Well, just thanks, Trish, and so one of the avenues that I had during that period, Trish probably needs to turn the radio off, but was WBCP.
That's right.
Mr. Purtle, Mr. Clark gave me an opportunity to come down here and, process and have a microphone to continue talking about community issues from my perspective. And, I think that's one of the reasons I am so, beholden and committed to making sure WBCP lasts for us. Because, they help provide that platform for me. But it's an interesting dynamic to want to make sure that our community isn't lost.
Yes.
Because it keeps you, I was telling one of my staff members last week, who was saying, you know, my husband said he was defending you in a conversation today. And I said, well, tell him my thanks, and I appreciate that, you know. But when you have business, people talk about you. And not everybody's going to agree with you and like what you do. And so you have to stand strong on your beliefs and what you stand for. And as long as you do that, I think
if you're well informed, you get to speak.
That's right. And so as long as you stand on those things you know, fundamentally believe in as a person, you're good.
That's right. Well, thank you so much, baby. You're wonderful to have in this community. So you stay healthy yourself.
You know, I just appreciate you two so much. And, you know, eventually one day we'll have to pass the baton on.
I know it.
Always been so proud of the work of you and Tracy. So let's just keep it moving.
Okay, honey. Thank you. Okay.
Right.
You all, that was Patricia Avery, the president of our local branch of the NAACP, who's been out here for decades trying to fight the good fight, trying to build the good relationships.
Well, Trish was the first African-American chair of the county board.
That's right, of the county board. She broke one color barrier that we can all be grateful for, and it's important to acknowledge her work because there's always pressure on people like us to conform.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to access places of power if we're ever going to be able to make a difference, because we've got to affect change, not just in various people's individual lives, but systemic change. So we have to be able to access those corridors, but it has to be with integrity. And it has to be with good research and information. And so various ones of us attempt to do that in various ways, but it's important for us all to touch base with one another and have that support, and again, that accountability. I seriously need somebody to pull my coattail. If I am off the rails, at least say, Imani, you sound like you off the rails, and give me a chance to either defend myself or to straighten myself out. We need that from each other. And Trace, we only have a few more minutes.
Yeah,
this wasn't the intention for today's show, but I'm still happy with it.
Well, it's all good. And, you know, as we move into, so today is October 1st, we start year 6 in the Access Project. And so what I want to commit to you today is, you know, over the next several months, we're going to just plan out regular attendance for me to come and kind of talk about where we are and where we're headed. So that way the community knows, I like that, I'm on board with that. No, I think we need to think about this. So, you know, one of the questions you asked is, do we have a handle on youth and families and the needs of our kids and families? And I think we do.
Wonderful.
I think we do. So we really have to now start pushing that envelope within our service providers, with our institutions of learning, with our justice systems, with our mental health systems, with our social service systems, holding them more accountable to respond to the needs of our kids.
Because now we know who they are and what they are.
Right.
So, you always think you know, and we're pretty sure we're right, but to actually know, this is who's suffering from this is who's challenged with that. Okay, we know who we're talking about, we know what the needs are, and so no more excuses from anyone.
I remember the first meeting we had, we brought in a group of about 12 or 13 pastors. And the first conversation we had about mental health, and we just started talking about it, and they started talking about different things that were happening within their congregations, within the church. And I think it was Reverend Nash that finally says, you know what? I'm so glad we're doing this, because this is stuff I've been thinking about and wondering about, but never knew how to address. So here, for 3 or 4 years later, our churches are more aware. Our congregations, or our pastors, or their leaderships in their churches are more aware of mental health in our community. And so we got a great foundation to build on. Thanks, BCP, for allowing us to be here with Access Live each week. Thank you, Imani, for holding it down for us. And I look forward to being back soon.
Wonderful. And with that, we wind the show up on a very high note. This is Imani Bazzell, your host for Access Live, a community education and engagement initiative of the Access Initiative. So pleased to tell you you can expect to hear from and for the director to listen very close to you as we wind 2004 down and make sure that the Access Initiative is where you understand it needs to be. So have a lovely rest of the week. Keep holding hands, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you for listening to Access Live. Access Initiative is a trauma and justice-informed system of care. We're glad that you joined us today. Please join us every Wednesday at 2:00 p.m. for Access Live. Thank you and be well.